Hi everyone, Brenda Earl Stokes. I'm the owner and creator of Piano and Voice with Brenda, creative and practical resources for pianists, vocalists, and music teachers. Today is Motivation Monday again. I'm actually filming this on Sunday, and look how gorgeous it is outside right now. You can see 3rd Avenue from my window. Today's topic I call From Envy to Insight. Now, as far as envy or jealousy is concerned, I know I'm not the only person who struggles with that from time to time. And what I've realized about jealousy and envy is it can actually be a really powerful tool for insight. So, for example, if there is an artist that, or a musician, or somebody who's doing something in their life, and when you think of them, you have that awful feeling of envy or jealousy, or you might go into that place of like, well, why them? Why did they get to do that? Or why did they get successful with that? Or why did they win that award or that grant or whatever it is? And it's very easy to go into a cycle of that being very, very destructive and very depressing. But what I've learned to do with that information is to use it as an opportunity to get a little bit more insight about myself. And so I'll give you a couple of examples in particular. There was one person who I will not name names, who I would look at and say, oh, gosh, why them? Why are they doing that? And I would look at the success they were having and the things they were doing in their life, and I would just really feel a pining and a panging towards that. I'd just say, ugh. And after a while, I started to look at that and say, well, in a realistic way, you can't, first of all, switch lives with someone. And second of all, if there was some magical way that you were able to switch lives with someone, you would have to switch the whole thing. Like, you can't just take part of someone's life and not the whole thing. You would have to do all of it. And then you'd be like, but would I want to also do this? And if they're doing that, then they're also doing this. And, you'd get into that whole mindset. So what I started to do that was really constructive was I would stop and I would kind of break it down a little bit, kind of deconstruct those feelings of jealousy or envy that I was having. And I would say, well, what about this am I jealous of? Am I jealous of their acclaim they're getting? Am I jealous of the fact that they're making music more than I am? Am I jealous that they are considered an expert in their field? Or like, what exactly is it about this that I'm jealous about? Because I'm certainly not jealous of getting on an airplane all the time, or having to work long hours, or not making much money doing what they're doing, like whatever other kind of factors work into it. And so I would stop and I would say, for example, if I was feeling very envious or jealous over somebody who was really making a lot of music, I would stop and I would try to pinpoint it and say, well, what is it about this am I really jealous of? And that has caused me to do some really great things in my life. I was sort of struggling with that feeling a lot. And then it dawned on me that, the problem is I felt like I wasn't making enough music, or I felt like I wasn't able to, or I just was stuck in some way in my own creative process. And so it was thanks to that I ended up applying for a bunch of grants and going to the Banff Center for Fine Arts in 2019. That really came out of working through some jealousy feelings that I had towards, there was a couple of people, and it seemed like the theme really was for me that I just wasn't feeling creative. I was feeling kind of stuck in that way. And that comes up in other contexts for me professionally too, seeing somebody whose business is really growing, seeing somebody who's getting a lot of acclaim, or they seem to be kind of everywhere in their business. And when I stop and notice my feelings of that, I will stop and maybe take a look at what that person is doing. And I'll say to myself, well, that's really interesting. Like, maybe this is an indication that I should be looking at some of the things that they're doing and how that is playing out in their business. And so for me, jealousy and envy has really guided me towards kind of trying to pinpoint what it is, because a lot of times I feel like the jealousy comes from some kind of a deficit, something that's missing from me that's making me look at somebody else and say, oh, I wish that I had what what they had in that kind of way. And so that's really helped me a lot to take some actions, especially in the last year. It feels like since I'm not really seeing anyone, and social media, I'm sure I'm not the only one who notices this, but social media has a really bad tendency to just pull us into cycles of seeing what other people are doing, and other people's lives are amazing, and you sort of fall into that cycle of feeling, well, I'm not doing anything, or I feel like I'm not measuring up in that same way. And so, first of all, I try to turn a lot of that kind of stuff off, because it can get very destructive if you do it too much, or if you're steeped in that too often. But if I find those feelings of jealousy kick in, or I feel that pang, then I will do some work to kind of try to figure out what it is. And I keep a journal every day. I write a bunch of pages just in a book. I just buy notebooks and write, and it's kind of my brain dump. And a lot of times I work through some of these feelings in this journaling to be able to say, well, I've been noticing I've been having a lot of feelings towards this particular person, or these people who seem to be doing X, Y, and Z. And then I'll kind of work through, what is it about that's bothering me? And a lot of times I can really turn that into action steps of what I need to do for myself next. And it's helped me to be courageous, more courageous than I think I would be without that feeling. And I feel it's like unleashing competitiveness, but for a good reason. I think where things would go wrong is if I see somebody who's getting a lot of accolades, and then I say, well, I want a lot of accolades. But that's problematic, because we shouldn't really be trying to do anything for the accolades. So I usually try to throw those feelings away to say, that's very destructive. That's just ego talking. But when I see people who are doing things that are really creative or really interesting, that's when I want to take a look and see, how can I unleash that? And sometimes it just takes a little while to work through those feelings, and to see how can I turn that into action steps so that I can be more productive for myself. So is there anything in your life or anyone or anything in your life where you feel like feel jealous, or you feel envy towards it? If so, you don't have to name names, but you can leave your comment about that below. And I would say, how can you unlock those feelings and turn those negative feelings into some positive steps for your own work? So that's today's video, from envy to insight. Leave a comment below if you have any thoughts on that, or if you've ever been able to kind of unlock your competitive nature in a productive way. I would love to hear about it. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I'll see you later this week.